I now reconvene the general session. As I mentioned yesterday, the commission members who participate remotely will need to disclose if any other individuals 18 years of age or older are present in the room at the remote location and the general nature of the members' relationship with any such individuals. Are there any disclosures from members attending via Zoom?
This is Commissioner Hartwig. I have no such disclosure.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Heredia. I have no disclosure.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Yuzoff. I have no disclosure.
Thank you. As a reminder, commissioners who are participating via Zoom must be visible at all times on camera. Please log off Zoom if you need to leave the meeting and log in when you are ready to join the meeting. If you experience broadband or internet connectivity problems while participating in the meeting, that would be remedied by joining without video. You must announce the reason for your non-appearance when you turn off your camera. We will now take roll call. Recording Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Lynette Brown.
Here.
Catherine Williams Brown.
Present.
Jose Cardenas.
Present.
Cheryl Cotton.
Present.
Juan Cruz.
Here.
Christopher Davis.
Present.
Michael De La Torre. Anna Marie Francois.
Present.
Makita Gwino Shire.
Present.
Megan Gross.
Present.
Johanna Harwick.
Present.
Susan Aradia.
Present.
Bonnie Cladd. Ira Litt. Monica Martinez.
Here.
Shireen Powry.
Present.
David Simmons.
Present.
Vaughn Yuzoff.
Present.
Kimberly Wise Smith. We have a quorum.
Thank you. I now recess the general session and move to the Educator Preparation Committee. Commissioner Cardenas, will you please reconvene the committee?
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. I would like to reconvene the Educator Preparation Committee. We have two items today. Item 4D is Child Development Permit Workgroup Update. This item is being presented by Renee Marshall, Deborah Keeler, and Brownwin Kennedy. This is an information item. Ms. Keeler, would you please begin? Ms. Renee Marshall.
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We are a remote team, so we will have two members of our team presenting via Zoom, and then I will be here, obviously, face to face. Good morning, commissioners. The Commission Early Childhood Education team is excited to share an update on the Child Development Permit Workgroup as an information item today. The ECE team is a remote team, and today I will be joined via Zoom by Bronwyn Kennedy and Dr. Debbie Keeler. With that, I would like to hand it over to Dr. Keeler.
Good morning, commissioners. An agenda item presented to the Commission in August 2023 provided information about the proposed plan and focus questions for the Child Development Permit Workgroup. This agenda item presents for the Commission's review the CDP Workgroup's ongoing work to make recommendations to the Commission on the structure and requirements of the Child Development Permit in alignment with Workforce Development Goal 2 of the state's Master Plan for Early Learning and Care and current needs in the field. I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Bronwyn Kennedy.
Thank you. The Child Development Permit Matrix serves as a foundational reference for ECE licensing requirements. The Commission currently issues 6 levels of child development permits. Each permit level has its own set of issuance requirements that build from one level to the next, authorizing the holder to perform different levels of service in state-subsidized childcare and development programs. In addition, there is also an optional school age emphasis that can be added to a permit holder for who may be serving children up to age 14 in before and after school age programs. The current 6-level CDP structure, including the requirements for earning each level of the permit, is provided in Appendix A. The Child Development Permit Matrix dates from 1993 and has not been updated since that time, other than adding the school age emphasis in 2002. From 2015 to 2017, a Child Development Permit Advisory Panel of ECE content experts met to review and make recommendations to update the permit matrix. The recommendations were temporarily tabled by the Commission, and the Commission adopted the ECE teaching performance expectations for each level of the permit and the new ECE program guidelines in 2019 as development of the master plan for early learning and care was launched and subsequently published in December of 2020. It was determined to relook at the child development permit in view of the master plan for early learning and care with the advent of the universal pre-kindergarten and the PK3 ECE specialist instruction credential. The executive director appointed 26 individuals from higher education, county offices of education, education agencies, and public and private child development centers to serve on the work group. Appendix B presents a list of work group members and liaisons to the work group. All interested education partners and members of the public are welcome to observe the CDP work group meetings, and the agenda for each meeting provides an opportunity for public comments. I'll now pass it back to Dr. Keeler.
Thank you, Bronwyn. The Child Development Permit Work Group will focus on the following questions. Question 1, how should the current permit structure be revised, updated, and/or modified to ensure that early childhood educators are adequately prepared for their job roles, considering the recommendations outlined in the master plan that meet the needs of employers for well-qualified ECE staff? Question 2, how can the state best monitor and ensure quality and preparation of the ECE workforce within the resources available? Question 3, how should the TPEs be reorganized to align with the proposed new structure for the child development permit? I will hand this back over to Renee.
The Child Development Permit Work Group has conducted 4 of 7 meetings at this time. The work group began in August 2023 and is set to conclude in April 2024. On your attachment, you will see that there is a list there, a table that has got all the different items that have been covered by the 4 meetings that we've had. It also has the planning for the 3 upcoming meetings, one that's coming up later this month, actually. The CDP work group is facilitated with support from WestEd's Region 15 Comprehensive Center, and I'm going to hand it over to Debbie, and she's going to go into a little bit of what we covered in the first few meetings. Debbie?
Thank you, Renee. The CDP Work Group Meeting 1 encompassed several key components. These included a charge to the work group to build upon the recommendations put forth in 2017 by the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing ECE Advisory Panel. The meeting provided a comprehensive overview of permit background requirements and policy considerations, incorporating an analysis of changes in the field since 2017. The discussion delved into various aspects, such as the connection to the 2020 Master Plan on Early Learning and Care, the current workforce on the PK3 credential, and implications of universal preschool. Feedback was given on topics such as TPEs, clinical experience, practicum, coaching, alignment with the TK through 12 system, including the PK3 credential. During CDP Workgroup Meeting 2, Dr. Mary Sandy delivered opening remarks underscoring the significance of the diverse perspectives and positions held by members of the CDP Workgroup. In addition, the roadmap graphic presented in Appendix C was shared to visually guide the progress of the work. The session involved a thorough debrief of the data accumulated from Meeting 1, an in-depth examination of the current TPEs and the PK3 credential in light of the master plan and various job roles. Additionally, Meeting 2 also incorporated a comprehensive review of ECE coursework within the curriculum alignment project and relationship to the permit. The meeting concluded with an exercise where participants voted about the prioritization of future meeting topics. Commencing CDP Workgroup Meeting 3, the agenda included a comprehensive debrief of the data of Meeting 2, followed by an in-depth exploration of the permit levels. Within their select affinity groups, workgroup members and liaisons were presented with 8 permit level scenarios. The California Department of Social Services presented various potential pathways for different permit options. An overview of CTC's outreach activities to elicit input from the field through focus groups conducted September through December was presented. In CDP Workgroup Meeting 4, insights were shared regarding the diverse experiences of the workgroup members, with a focus on responses related to the California State Preschool Program and private childcare. A summary of poll responses from Meeting 3 highlighted key themes. A detailed exploration of permit levels occurred, presenting two potential models of the CDP matrix that synthesize the work group's discussions. Affinity groups reviewed these models, considering their input for entry-level pathways into the profession and connections to the TK through 12 system. Each work group meeting concluded with an opportunity for both work group and public comments. I'm going to hand it over to Renee.
Moving forward, the Child Development Permit Work Group will continue to engage the field in providing input on proposed modifications to the permit structure and potential approaches to monitoring and ensuring quality in the ECE workforce preparation within available resources. Progress updates to the Commission are scheduled for today, and with CDP recommendations and public input shared for Commission discussion and considerations by fall of 2024. Now, Bronwyn's going to talk to us a little bit about the field connections that have taken place. Bronwyn?
Thank you, Renee. From September to December 2023, 7 focus groups were conducted to discuss the child development permit. Participants from various backgrounds in the early childhood community attended each group, including those who applied but were not selected to the CDP work group, faculty from community colleges and four-year universities, staff involved in early learning training and development from county offices of education, local education agencies, and other early childhood education employers. Each focus group was asked the same set of 5 questions based upon the charge of the CDP work group and was given the freedom to respond anonymously using an online tool. The responses were then compiled and analyzed to identify common themes and insights. The questions that were asked each focus group were as follows. Given the present and future needs of the ECE workforce, what are your thoughts on the current permit structure? How should the current permit structure be updated to ensure that early childhood educators, administrators, and those who provide expanded learning opportunities are adequately prepared for their job roles? What knowledge and skills are needed to meet the multifaceted educational and developmental needs of children? How can educators work effectively in partnership with parents and guardians to promote children's learning and development? And how do we support meeting the needs of employers for well-qualified ECE staff? Please refer to Appendix D for a summary of the overall themes and results from these focus groups. I will now pass it back to Renee Marshall.
Thank you, Bronwyn. For our next steps, ECE staff will continue implementing the CDP workgroup plan and provide the next step update on the work at an upcoming commission meeting. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the letters that were submitted during public comment. The Association of California School Administrators was uplifting the idea of pathways for seasoned educators to pursue an administrative credential. I'd like to acknowledge that Californians Together is uplifting dual language development within the permit structure by including comprehensive training on dual language development and asking for established pathways for bilingual and/or non-English speaking candidates. I'd also like to acknowledge that Early Edge reached out to us requesting specialized training and preparation to address dual language development. This was explicitly stated in the master plan for early learning and care. In addition, Early Edge is asking that bilingual staff will have support to obtain child development permit and making sure that support such as coaching, mentoring, and professional development are embedded within the discussions about the child development permit and at places embedded within the permit, ideally. In addition, Early Edge asked also for a focus on bilingual competencies, dual language acquisition, and home language support. And in their letter, they also elevated the issues of compensation and pay parity. Dual language learners, I want to assure everybody, will be an area of emphasis at the upcoming February 27th Child Development Permit Workgroup meeting, with presentations expected from the California Department of Education and I'm so used to CABTE, I hope I'm saying that right, CABTE, the California Association of Bilingual Teacher Education, plus discussion and reflection from CDP workgroup members. The ECE TPPs have California's dual language children at the forefront, and the necessity for teachers to truly understand how to support multi-language learners throughout all stages of learning. Language is essential to the development of the whole child, and we appreciate the thoughtful letters that have been submitted. At an upcoming CDP workgroup meeting, we will also spend time discussing and reflecting on the CDA and what role that will play moving forward. The Child Development Permit Workgroup is midway through this exciting and democratic process. We encourage the public to join the upcoming CDP workgroup meetings and to reach out to the ECE team here. We are here in partnership. With that, we appreciate the opportunity to present to the commissioners today, and we are wondering if you have any comments or any questions.
Thank you. We will now open for public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to give a presentation, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or by clicking on the raise hand icon if participating through Zoom, or pressing *9 if participating by phone. We will have a 2-minute timer. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
It's Emily Chen. Please unmute your microphone and share your comment. We'll move on to Crystal Zeese. Please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Hi, this is Emily Chen. I'm sorry, I accidentally pressed the button, so I'd like to mute. I don't have a question.
Crystal Zeese.
Good morning. My name is Crystal, and I am with Californians Together, and I'd like to thank the Commission for bringing together this expert work group to identify recommendations for updating the child development permit in alignment with the current needs in the field and the master plan for early learning care. My mother, who runs her own bilingual preschool program for over 15 years, would have loved to come provide public comment, but due to being with the kids, she might not be able to. With this in mind, I would like to ask the Commission to put a focus on providing accessible training pathways to expand access to education and training programs tailored to the needs of family care providers, including flexible scheduling options and online courses in multiple languages. By doing so, we can preserve the diverse linguistic cultural resources available in these settings while ensuring the provision of high-quality early childhood education for all children. Establishing these accessible pathways would allow people like my mother to consider expanding the opportunities in the field. Thank you.
Heather Hobrick, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Good morning, Commissioners. Heather Hobrick, Stanislaus County Office of Education. I am a professional growth advisor for the last 23 years and would like to elevate to the group to go ahead and consider keeping a level of education in between the 12 units and the AA degree, as it is an important rung on the career ladder to help our classrooms efficiently staff their classrooms, as well as for the teaching staff to be climbing that ladder one rung at a time. I also am hopeful that the work group will continue to outreach to the public for additional public comment, as the current surveys have only reached 113 respondents. And in my county alone, we have over 1,200 permitted child development permit holders. With that, I thank the group for their time and energy in this long overdue update of the child development permit. Thank you again.
Gephardt.
Are we on?
Yeah.
Use this one. Commissioners, thank you very much. Good morning. How are you? In advance of the 49er game, just a couple of words to the commission regarding the child development permit work group and related subjects. AXA has concerns that the work with the child development permit does not have a clear path for administrative credential without the cumbersome CTE workaround. Even though districts have a number of district level administrators serving ECE, they are not able to obtain an administrative credential because there isn't a direct path for an administrative credential. By example, Dr. Amy Slavinsky, interim deputy superintendent, schools and student support in San Juan Unified, reports they have a vacant ECE administrative position that remains unfilled due to the lack of an authorized administrative credential. AXA requests that the commission convene a work group or similar process to review this issue for a workable solution as soon as practical. Thank you.
We have no additional requests for public comment.
Okay, I'll pause for a second.
Would the attendee calling from the phone number ending in 962, please unmute your phone and share your comment.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Erika y me gustaría agradecer a la comisión por reunir a este grupo de trabajo de expertos para así identificar recomendaciones para actualizar el permiso de desarrollo infantil en concordancia con las necesidades actuales en el campo y en el plan maestro de aprendizaje y atención temprana. Como dueña de un programa bilingüe que llevo por más de 15 años, me gustaría pedir a la comisión que haga hincapié en el apoyo a la educación en el idioma materno, proporcionando apoyo en el idioma materno y cursos a proveedores que no hablan inglés. Las credenciales en otros idiomas ayudarían a proporcionar programas de apoyo en un idioma distinto al inglés. Como alguien que emigró a este país sin saber nada de inglés y aún así pudo ejecutar un programa bilingüe exitoso, proporcionando apoyo y cursos en idiomas no ingleses, pueden ampliar la experiencia en esta área en gran medida. Thank you.
There are no additional requests for public comment.
Give it one more second, just in case. The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Brown.
You knew I would. First of all, I just want to say how exciting these are really exciting times. And I want to start by really thanking our executive director, Mary Sandy, who really helped create this in the first place. And one of the things that this does is it both notices the incredible complexity and diversity of what's been happening in the early childhood field with children, our youngest citizens, really forever. It's a big lift because even though these children are young and small, they're incredibly important, and the people that care for them and educate them, caring and education is blended together in early childhood in a way that we would like it for all of our children. At the same time, I just want to say that this work group, I've been honored to be a part of this work group, and the diversity of outlook and interests and wishes and aspirations is huge. Just listening to what's been done so far, we're now looking at issues around professional learning, but we're always thinking about access and success, not only for the children, but for their teachers. As we do that, we're going to have to figure out how we can make this an understandable permit that is a career ladder. I think that the comment around looking at administrators is another one that's going to need to be looked at, but connecting it to P3 is also, it's going to be hard to do simply, but it has to be done well. Will it be perfect? It's hard to make anything perfect. We're human. But to figure out ways in which this child development permit can still stay in the commission that does teacher preparation for this state, I think is essential. So we'll look at the curriculum alignment project, which is at the community colleges, and how that's a base. And then we're going to have to look at other professional learning and how that can be done without, I just think it's going to be complicated. And I'm really excited that we're doing it. And I can tell you, as a professor in early childhood education, the student teachers that I have are very excited about this work, about the P to 3 group work, and ask me every time I meet with them, so what's new and where's the place for me? We're also getting in people that are transitional kindergarten teachers who also have an interest in this project, because this will also be a place where people can start and be those associate teachers or paraeducators, or and bring the field of education together. I'm sorry, I know I talked a long time, but I just think this is really important work. And I really, the team that you all have looking at the three of you has just been, it's really admirable.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, and it takes a lot of us to lift this up.
Commissioner Simmons?
Okay, because my role on the commission is representing human resources, sometimes I have to be the crass person. So here, these are my questions. I think that the career ladder aspects of this are really important, because I was doing some basic figuring. A kindergarten classroom in my district costs about $150,000 to staff, if you're considering all of the benefits and all of those things beyond the salary of the teacher. What I'm getting for each of our preschool classrooms seems to be about $160,000. That's not because the people are paid well, it's because there's so many of them. So as we increase the requirements, we also will increase the cost of having those employees in there. Is there anybody on the panel? Because I looked for membership. I saw that UTLA is represented, and historically UTLA has been representing CFT. I don't know if that's still correct. Okay, so both CFT and CFT are represented by that one person. Does AXA have any representation on the panel? Because what I would think is important is for somebody on the panel to be able to cost out what the recommendations would be as we move forward. Because if whatever we come together can't be paid for, it might as well not happen. So let me give you an example with TK. A TK classroom is funded now under the LCFF pretty much at the same rate that is paid for by the for any other grade level. And yet, if it costs $150,000 to do a K classroom with no limit on the number of kids that can be put in that classroom, in a TK classroom, the minimum cost of that is $210,000, with a limit of either 24 or 20 to 1, depending upon how you read the law. So what I think whatever you do has to be considered in what is going to be the impact of this. I also think that protecting the current pathways for multiple subject candidates to access the child development permit is really important. Because of those same cost issues that I was talking about, you have situations where teachers need to have some fluidity to be able to move between preschool, K, first grade, third grade, which is the benefit of the PS credential. So in terms of that kind of flexibility, somebody needs to be looking at that. Now, the current system is arcane, to say the best, but in the last 30 years, we've figured out how to use it. So whatever goes forward, I think.
For those who join on Zoom, we actually running out of we run into technical issues. We will be surely reconvene.
Okay. I think we're back. Thank you for your patience. This is why chalkboards are still relevant. Commissioner Cotton.
I just wanted to share agreement with Commissioner Simmons and Commissioner Brown as we look at teacher recruitment, as we look at bringing folks into the profession through multiple pathways. This is a very clear pathway, but I think we also do need to be very intentional and thoughtful about connecting the early childhood permit process to our PK3 credentialing, as well as multiple subject credentials. So just keeping that in mind, the idea of the connection between administrative services as credentialing as well, I think is very powerful. So keeping all of those things in mind, the pathways are really important to bring folks into the profession. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Heredia?
Yes, good morning. So I'm interested in hearing what David had to say because we got cut off. So if he could give us the Cliff Notes version of the second half of your comments, I would be really appreciative of that. Thank you.
Basically, I was saying that there should be somebody on the panel with a calculator.
Okay.
Because, okay, because of the way that the staffing requirements are in statute, and because of the requirements of the qualifications of staff in statute, it can be extremely expensive to run a preschool program. Not saying that it shouldn't be, but that we need to keep that in mind so that what we are requiring actually can be done. So the example I gave was TK, whereas we essentially have got an entirely new grade level, which costs for a classroom something like $210,000 per classroom, just in terms of staff, as opposed to a K classroom, which costs about $150,000 in terms of staff. So, so we got basically a whole new grade level, but without any additional funds to pay for what is a more expensive program. Similarly, when you have a K class, it's about 150, but if you're doing a preschool class, because of the number of staff who are underpaid, but a larger number of them, it could cost you 160 grand. So when we are figuring out what we are going to require for these different, I'm going to call them grade levels, we need to be cognizant of the expenses that are associated with those. So that's not my expertise area either, but it is something that I think that, well, Cheryl was in HR. Maybe you'd be a good person to be on that panel.
Thank you, David.
Commissioner Simmons, is it okay for me to speak?
I think Commissioner Heredia, did you have anything else to add?
Yeah,
There was a second
I wanted to kind of piggyback on what Commissioner Simmons said, if that's okay at this time, or do you want me to raise my hand again? Or
I think Renee Marshall wanted to add something.
If that would be okay, just.
Is it okay if Renee Marshall answers?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Simmons also talked about protecting ways for multiple subject teachers to get permits, and also mentioned the word simplify in relationship to the permit. So I just wanted to share those additional notes if any other people who were online commissioners or public didn't have a chance to hear it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Heredia.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. I just want to echo David's comments about the cost, what school board members are going to be facing across this state in the next year is, a drastic reduction in their budgets. And although they have the LCFF, there are other things that are not always covered by the LCFF. And so I want to make sure that that everyone understands that the capacity is a big issue. And it's sort of like yesterday, I was so excited about the standards, and then I thought about, oh gosh, there's still so much to do in terms of making sure there's enough funding for institutions of higher ed, and there's other, for LEAs, just to make sure that these things are implemented. So I'm excited about this, but I think capacity is going to be one thing. David, I am so glad you are on this commission, because what you do is reiterate things that I heard at my school board meeting last Wednesday night in terms of fundings for school. The other thing is that I had a question, real quick here, I'll try not to take too much time. I had a question. Oh, great, I think I lost it. Here it is. On the let's see, looking at this is the child development permit matrix. And so my question is, because I'm not as familiar with this as I am teaching credentials. So when someone comes in with just 6 units of early childhood education, and there's really no requirement here in terms of, well, they have 3 units in school age, but there's really kind of no requirement there. So one of the things I didn't know is from that jump to the next one, to teacher, associate, to teacher, in this permit and in the world of these individuals who work with students, is there a supervision of their skills and feedback and an evaluation as they move through? That's one of my questions that I didn't have. I wasn't able to, I didn't see it in the report. So if it's in there, I apologize.
Debbie, would you like to address that, or would you like me to?
I'm happy to address it. So yes,
Great,
there
thank you.
is. Thank you. There is an accountability structure in place for those that are working, particularly like in the CSPP or state preschool programs. So they can enter as an assistant, actually without any units, under the supervision of a fully qualified teacher. And many of them do have 6 units. They may have the assistant teacher permit. It's not required for those positions. It's recommended, but not required. For the associate teacher level, again, recommended, but not required for those assistant teacher positions. And so the teacher of record that is a fully qualified CSPP teacher, they do oversee, they may not evaluate those particular employees that may be at a higher level of administration that officially does those evaluations, but they do have guidance, mentoring, and coaching for those positions.
Thank you. And I have one last question. So the professional growth, which was stated on page 8. So the professional growth that's required within that 5-year renewal period it talks about. Does that professional growth, is it limited to just 15 units? I mean, for our units at the university level, at the college level, is it limited to that, or is professional growth also considered workshops that may be provided for people in the field?
Yes, the 105 hours that are required for a renewal can be professional growth at their place of employment. They could be actual units. They just need to have a professional growth advisor that affirms that they've had that professional growth within 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
I'm looking around for any other commissioners, and I see Commissioner Simmons.
Okay, that actually, I looked over at Commissioner Gross and I thought, in terms of special needs, Right now, as I understand it, 3-year-olds are who are with disabilities are unfunded entirely, yet districts have to provide those services. One way to recoup those services is by enrollment in state preschool, which would require that the teacher essentially have dual credentialing between both the early childhood special ed credential and the child development permit. So my question for that is there any, can you have someone on the panel that is able to talk, to understand the funding issues between state preschool and 3-year-olds with disabilities?
Are you stating that as just as a suggestion, or is that a question?
Well, is there somebody on the panel that understands the funding of state preschool and special education and the conjunction between the two?
Yes, I believe so, but we can also make sure that we have got the depth of expertise with that special education lens on there on the panel as well. After this meeting, I can sit back with the ECE team and just go through a little bit deeper on the list. Unless Debbie, is there somebody, Debbie or Bronwyn, is there somebody who had, I'm just trying to think of the work group members, if there's a few people that have specific expertise in special ed, and if any of them have special ed and finance.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Debbie, do you remember? I don't remember off the top of my head, Commissioner Simmons, but we can circle back with that unless Debbie or Bronwyn does remember.
We do have an individual, Heather Snipes, who does have a lot of experience with special education. It's very common in state preschool programs for children, 3-year-old children with IEPs, to be in a regular mainstream classroom with the additional supports. And it does not necessarily require a special ed teacher for oversight for that. So there may be exceptions to that, but there is a lot of braided funding between special education and state preschool.
I think Executive Director Sandy would like to chime in.
So excuse me, in putting together this design team, there are a number of factors really that are critical to look at. First of all, expertise in, what's necessary, what do teachers need to know and be able to do in order to work with young children. And that gets specialized very quickly when you have students with disabilities, students with dual language needs, and et cetera. The costing out of recommendations, I think, is a really critical step in this process. To really do the cost benefit analysis is going to be necessary. And I think there is a kind of ping pong of the issue that is of necessity going to happen, where you begin with what's necessary for this space, what's the best possible workforce preparation model we could put together with a matrix like this that has career lattices and all these other interconnected pieces in order to get the services that children need in these spaces. A next layer is, what are the kinds of spaces in which these children are going to be served, and how much variance is there? And what are the different payment structures for that? And in the early childhood space, that is one of the more complex questions. All of the different funding streams that come in to fund what we're doing in the pre-K space is, I mean, that's a master's degree in and of itself. And then there's the piece of, as we move this, as we are focusing on both, staffing and workforce preparation for the state preschool program. And in some places that's very tightly connected to the TK-12 system. In some places it's not, right? So how do we anticipate all of the different places where our structure may be deployed, where people who are prepared and hold this permit are put to work? And at some point, we're going to have to say, this is what's necessary to work in this field. How do we fund it? Not this is what's necessary, but we can't afford it, so what are we going to do instead? That's what we've been doing since 19XX, fill in the blank. We haven't been able to move the needle on preparation of this workforce into a more professional space because of the intensive cost limitations that come with doing that, right? And that's a reality. There is a significant and real tension between quality, access, and funding. Absolutely, that tension exists. And, where you land on that triangle, it depends on the day, depends on your role. So this is going to be the complex part of this. Should we do what our panel is recommending us to do? If it's absolutely unachievable financially, well, probably not. But what should we do instead? That's a slippery slope. And I've been down that slippery slope in 1993. When we came up with this matrix, it was the best we could do at the time. To live within the salaries and the reimbursement rates and the challenges of offering state subsidized preschool for somebody, for the lowest income families. And now we're in a space where we're offering full access to 4-year-olds to TK, right? And TK is still kind of an extension of pre-K, right? So this is a very complex set of issues, Mr. Simmons, Commissioner Simmons, and you may be the guy with the calculator in the room, and we may have to sit down and really talk about what are the limits of our analysis, and what do we offer the field in terms of a workforce plan or structure that we think is essential if we're going to offer services and take responsibility for the quality of those services to the young children that are served by the people we permit.
Thank you, Executive Director Sandy. Are there any other commissioners? Commissioner Brown.
Thank you for identifying the complexity of this. At the same time, the aspirational nature of the child development permit was such that it was trying to be more inclusive of people who work with young children, not just those who are working with young children inside a small percentage of the state preschool, because that's income eligible programs, and that means that there's not very many people get to go into them. This permit had an aspiration of being more inclusive so that more different kinds of professionals could come in and see a way to become professional. And we all know, and is that in general, our society has undervalued working with young children, even undervaluing raising young children. And this teaching profession wants to bring that in. And there's a whole lot of people that would like to do that. At the same time, they're going to have different ways of looking at it. So yes, we do need to cost it out, but we also need to recognize that young children and their families deserve a quality education. And that's what this is trying to do. And I still think we need to hold on to that in terms of preparing people and saying, yes, you are a professional educator. You're not just a, excuse me, babysitter. And even that, we call that a professional differently too. So yes, it's going to cost more, and it should, because young children deserve a quality education. But that doesn't mean we can't do it at all. So, yeah.
And I just think if we're going to do that, we should do it with our eyes open and with so that the public and the legislature understands those costs.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown, for that reminder. I just want to give a little bit of input. One of my majors of my many was child development. And for me, always the focus was the whole child. And I believe child development always has that focus. I grew up speaking Spanish only. And when I jumped into elementary school, that language is pretty much stripped away from me. And so dual language, like the caller had mentioned, having a bilingual program in someone's native language is really vital and important for the child to grow and become the leader that we want them to be. And so there's a lot of, I think, concerns that have come up, but I think there's a lot of excitement as well. And I think this excitement is what needs to continue to fuel us to really push this forward and bring this profession in. Granted, there are services that we have to talk about. We're dealing with that as school counselors, our administrators, school psychologists, our school nurses, because we want to be able to provide the best service possible to all of our students, no matter how old they are, no matter how young they are. And so with that said, I just want to say thank you to the work group. Thank you to all the commissioners and to everyone who has spoken for public comment. Muchas gracias a la llamada que por hoy. Just want to remind us that all this work is important and all lenses are needed. So with this time, this was an information item. No action is needed at this time. Thank you, Ms. Marshall. Thank you, Ms. Keeler and Ms. Kennedy.
Thank you.
So our last Educator Preparation Committee item is 4E. The proposed adoption of a revised passing score standard for the special education version of the Fresno Assessment of Student Teachers Performance Assessment. This item is being presented by David DeGeer and Dr. Juliet Wallleitner from the California State University, Fresno. This is an action item. Mr. DeGeer, would you please begin?
Good morning, Commissioners. This agenda item presents for review and potential adoption a passing score standard for the education specialist versions of the Fresno Assessment of Student Teachers, or FAST, performance assessment. It also provides information about the standard setting process used to determine the recommendation. Based on the Fresno Assessment of Student Teachers 2.0, the FAST 2.0, for multiple subject and single subject candidates, both the FAST Education Specialist Mild to Moderate and the FAST Education Specialist Extensive Support Needs include a site visitation project to be completed in the second semester of the 3-semester program and a teaching sample project to be completed in the final semester of the program. At its August 2022 meeting, the Commission approved both assessments as having met the content requirements and the performance assessment design standards, and directed the California State University, Fresno to conduct standard setting studies. The program has done so, and Dr. Juliet Wallleitner will now explain the process they used.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to share about the process that we used. So what we did to lead our standard setting, we brought together key stakeholders, we brought together program faculty, we brought together mentor teachers who are experienced education specialist educators, and we brought together other district representatives who have experience with education specialists to review candidate project submissions, and then to review them in light of the proposed rubrics that we had created, and to come to agreement on what constituted a passing project. And so what met, the minimum requirements of a for a newly credentialed teacher or education specialist teacher in California. And so we ended up going through multiple iterations of that project. But in each, and that was based on just feedback that we received, or multiple iterations of that process, sorry, based on the feedback that we received from the stakeholders. But ultimately through that process, the reviews were always within 1 point, and there was consensus about what, again, constituted a passing project. And those are then the standards that we will be using moving forward in our calibration with individuals who score this SVP and the TSP for both the extensive support needs candidates and the mild to moderate support needs candidates.
So staff recommends that the Commission adopt the recommended passing standard of 2 for each task in both the site visitation project and the teaching sample project for both the FAST Education Specialist Mild to Moderate Support Needs and the FAST Education Specialist Extensive Support Needs. Since a minimum score is required for each rubric, Applying a standard error of measurement does not make sense in this context. And we are happy to answer any questions commissioners may have.
Thank you. We will now open for public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to give a presentation, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or by clicking on the raise hand icon if participating through Zoom, or pressing *9 if participating by phone. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
Public comments on this item.
We'll give it a second. The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Student Liaison Wicks.
Good morning. I just had a clarifying question, and I apologize if this is mentioned. I could have missed over it, but I was wondering, will there be a criteria established for selecting evaluators and determining their qualifications for when they are observing the students? And then a little follow-up, is there a plan to implement an appeal process to address any disagreements students may have with their evaluation results based on what or whoever is looking at their as the projects and the process? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Dr. Wallleitner?
Yeah, happy to talk about that. The people that we invite to score are faculty and coaches in our program. They must have experience in education specialist contexts. And so they are people with the relevant background knowledge and expertise. Regarding the appeal process, we do have that built in. Candidates are always welcome to ask for another individual to score their projects. That's usually done by our FAST coordinator. But when she feels she needs another set of eyes, for lack of a better term here, she reaches out to somebody with the relevant experience to provide that second review. Does that answer your questions?
It does. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Are there other commissioners? Commissioner Gross?
I apologize if this was already stated and I missed it, but I'm thinking about our previous agenda items on standard setting. We're always kind of also looking at the demographics of our students to make sure our standards meet that. And I know the FAST has an incredibly high pass rate, but I am just wondering like how that will be monitored and looked at as well in the scores.
Yeah, and so that's something, sorry, I jumped in to start talking, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
So I will share that, we're working with a really small pool of candidates especially for our education specialist. Like other institutions throughout the state, we have been struggling to recruit people into that pathway. But I don't know. So in terms of the standard setting, we were just, I don't know that it was particularly broad in terms of the demographics of the candidates whose projects we were reviewing, because we were working with what we had. But moving forward, we do continually monitor that. That's some of the data that we collect and that we analyze as a program just to see, making sure that those pass rates are consistent across all demographic groups, and then to think about how we can provide more support, because ultimately we want all of our candidates to be successful through this.
And then what I would add is that in our annual performance assessment report, we will be sharing that data with you. And we have been breaking out the education specialist versions of the assessments and would continue doing that with the FAST.
Any other commissioners? I had a follow-up question in regards to Student Liaison Wicks. Is there a calibration process for your scores as well?
Absolutely. All scorers must be calibrated annually. And we're actually just trying to strengthen that process even further, providing, just last week, there was an orientation for all faculty and coaches on the different elements of FAST, making sure there's just really clear understanding. But for the actual scorers, they are required to do this annual calibration.
Thank you. Are there any other commissioners? Chair Shire.
Good morning. I think it would be useful if you could just give a brief history of FAST, because it has been part of the Fresno way for decades. And I don't know if a lot of the commissioners or the public understand that. So if you could just speak to that briefly.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. So FAST was established in the early 2000s, and it was Fresno's response. The individuals who were here at the time, saw this growth and interest around performance assessments and saw this as an opportunity to create our own performance assessment that would be used for, monitoring our students' progress, ensuring that the candidates that leave our program are qualified or have the necessary knowledge and skills to be to be first-year teachers, and it's their opportunity to demonstrate that. And so the initial FAST was designed, as I said, in the early 2000s, and then it's gone through several iterations. When the commission adopted its requirement that all candidates in California pass a performance assessment, the FAST, was submitted for approval, demonstrating its alignment with the assessment design standards, and then with the updates of the teaching performance expectations. And was that 2017? Then when the assessment design standards were updated, then FAST was revised in response. So that's why we have the FAST 2.0 for our multiple subject and single subject. And then when the requirement came out for ed specialist candidates to also pass a performance assessment, then we revised or developed a new version of FAST specifically for our education specialist candidates. But it is entirely in-house, as I shared. It's our faculty and our coaches who score it. We are incredibly proud of the FAST, and it is offered to our candidates at no cost. So we're really proud to be able, as I said, to be able to offer that to them. So that's the quick overview. And there was an agenda item, was it June of 2022, where I did more of an extensive history of the FAST for the commission.
Thank you.
Thank you. We know that this is an action item. Do I have a motion that the commission adopt the recommended passing standard of 2 for each task in both the site visitation project and teaching sample project for the FAST education specialist mild to moderate support needs and FAST education specialist extensive support needs? Commissioner Martinez, is that motion? And then second by Chair Shire. Any further discussion? Will the recording secretary please call for the vote? Each member please respond with aye, nay, or abstain.
Aye. Jose Cardenas.
Aye.
Cheryl Carlton.
Aye.
Juan Cruz.
Aye.
Christopher Davis.
Aye.
Makita Shire.
Aye.
Megan Gross.
Aye.
Johanna Harwick.
Aye.
Susan Aradia.
Aye.
Monica Martinez.
Aye.
David Simmons.
Aye.
Fang Yuzoff.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Wallachner. Thank you, Mr. DeKeer. We know the FAST program is a model program, so thank you very much. Having no additional items, I adjourn the Educator Preparation Committee.
Thank you, Commissioner Cardenas. I will now reconvene the general session and move to item 2H, new business. The bi-monthly agenda is presented for information, and it's you have that as part of your documents. Next on the agenda is audience presentations. Please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or clicking on the raise hand icon if participating through Zoom. or pressing *9 if participating by phone. Recording secretary, are there any audience presentations?
We have no request for audience presentation.
Give it another second. Okay. We will now move to item 2I, interview and recommendations of the public member positions and alternates for the elementary teacher position for the Committee of Credentials.
Madam Chair, I need to recuse from this item.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
I've got the script. Needed it? Okay. The ad hoc committee, which was composed of Monica, Commissioner Martinez, Commissioner Brown, and Commissioner Brown. Thank you. The ad hoc committee recommends to the full commission the appointment of Jonathan Ho to serve in the public member position on the Committee of Credentials. The ad hoc committee recommends to the full commission the appointment of Florence Flesch and Rachel Foster to serve as elementary teacher alternates. We will now open for public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to give a presentation, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or clicking on the raised hand icon if participating through Zoom, or pressing *9 if participating by phone. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
Comments on this item?
Thank you. The public comment period for this item is now closed. Would members of the ad hoc committee like to speak about their recommendations?
Yeah, so sure, I'll speak on behalf of my colleagues and I can fill in if I miss anything. First of all, we just want to thank the people who applied to be part of this committee. And you can see by the candidates that we are putting forth in front of you, there was just deep respect for the profession at large and the role and the importance of the Committee on Credentialing, which just kind of warmed your heart, and also for the care of putting children first and for wanting to take the responsibility to ensure that we put children first and that they're safe. So we were really excited, learned lots of good colloquialisms from them. Impressed by their understanding so early of the multiple regulations, and are very happy to have the public position filled and very happy to have 2 alternates for our elementary subject teacher. Commissioners Browns, do you want to add anything else? Any questions from the commissioners?
Thank you, Commissioner Martinez, and thank you to Commissioner Browns for your service as well. We appreciate you. Do I have a motion to approve the recommendations of the ad hoc committee?
So moved.
Thank you. Moved by Commissioner Cruz. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Gross. Any further discussion? Will the recording secretary please call for the vote? Each member please respond with aye, nay, or abstain.
Danette Brown,
Aye.
Jose Cardenas,
Aye.
Cheryl Compton,
Aye.
Juan Cruz,
Aye.
Christopher Davis, Makita Quino Shire,
Aye.
Megan Gross,
Aye.
Johanna Howick,
Aye.
Susan Aradia,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons,
Aye.
Fang Yudolph,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you, and thank you to our new committee members. Next is agenda item 2J, report of closed session items. The commission granted the following petitions for reinstatement: Nicholas Navasero, John Wynn. The commission denied the following petitions for reinstatement: Donovan Barella, Juan Jaimes, Pierre Knox. The commission rejected the proposed decisions and called for the transcripts in the following matters: Shatera Johnson, Mark Lopez, Blanca Quintana, Julie Simbob, Danique Tarrin, Michael Turner Jr. The commission reviewed the transcript in the following matters, and a decision and order will be prepared for the commission's adoption. The commission ordered a 30-day delay for preparation of the decision and order for the following: Diane Colgate, Tara Gutierrez, John Klaus, and Commissioner Christopher Davis recused himself on this item. Jonathan Mesiska, Lydia Morales, Cornelius Ogunsalo. The commission adopted the decision and order in the following matters: Michael Koji, Cassandra Everett, Thang Jia, Jessica Kakimoto, Omar Musle, Edward Ronquillo, Joseph Sinclair, and Catherine Yetter. The commission discussed the following consent calendar items and remanded the matters back to the Committee of Credentials. Number 15, Robert Bryan Jr., number 49, David Harp, and number 51, Tamiko Pearson. Well, commissioners, I now adjourn the February 2024 meeting of the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. Our next meeting is April 18th and 19th, 2024.